Welcome to the first episode of the Football Tactics Show featuring myself, Ted Nguyen from The Athletic, and Chris Vassar. Today we are going to be talking about the Minnesota Vikings' radical defensive philosophy shift. Last year they went with a trendy Vic Fangio, two high shell, lots of zone, four-man pass rush defense to stop explosive pass plays, but they still gave up the sixth highest percentage of explosive plays in the league. This year they're going to be a lot more aggressive under defensive coordinator Brian Flores. He's going to bring over his covered zero blitzing system. And to break it all down, here's Chris Vass.
Hey guys, so on third down and obvious passing situations, defenses are going to create exotic presentations to put stress on offenses' pass protections, usually lining up 5 to 7 defenders on the line of scrimmage. The goal is to force advantageous one-on-one matchups. The defense packages will create these calls out of the same look, and they have the ability to run various coverages and pressures out of the same look. One of my favorite of these packages was when the Dolphins with Brian Flores, they ran something they called Bengal front. And it includes really two calls, an all-out max blitz, which is rarely seen in today's game, and a cover three curveball with one of the guys on the line of scrimmage playing the deep middle third called Bronco. So I'm going to examine the package, how it works, and what makes it so deadly, and what Vikings fans can expect to see this coming season with it. So as I mentioned, a lot of exotic presentations across the NFL consist of that pressure look is going to force the offense to change their protections. If they drop out and don't bring pressure, they get one-on-one matchups with all the people lined up on the line of scrimmage. It's pretty simple. It's a numbers game. The offense can't double team anyone. But when you see these concepts around the league, you usually see teams, and Vikings fans, you'll know, as Mike Zimmer was your head coach, going to line up all those people on the line. And more often than not, they're going to drop everyone out. Or they may bring one guy, and it's going to be some sort of simulated pressure, especially in today's game, like Ted had mentioned with the Vikings last year, too high shell, forcing teams dinking and dunking underneath. But what Brian Flores did with the Bengal package and Josh Boyer at the Dolphins is they would show maximum pressure, but they would bring it more often than not. An unscientific guess on this would probably be about 65% of the time when they're showing this pressure look, they are going to bring it. And as I mentioned, it's really two calls. It's a max blitz and cover three. There's some small variations. So let's get into what that looks like.
All right, let's start up front with the projected Viking starters that will play these positions. The Bengal front, by rule, is a 6-up look, meaning there's going to be 6 defenders on the line of scrimmage. The nose and tackle will align in the A-gaps. And for the Vikings, these players should be Dean Lowry and Harrison Phillips. The ends and the backers will align in the outermost gaps to their side. In the floor system, the backer or buck plays as DN in nickel and dime packages. These players will be Daniel Hunter and Marcus Davenport. The 2 inside linebackers, the Mac and Money backer, will align in the B gap. These 2 players are projected to be Jordan Hicks and Brian Asamoah. For most of the Bengal calls, the free safety will align on the end of the line of scrimmage to the running back side. This should be familiar sight for Viking fans who watched years of Mike Zimmer's double mug packages with Harrison Smith aligned on the edge.
Now, the positions are not fixed in any way, and Brian Flores will find the best players for the system, and that's part of the process they're going through right now with camp. When installing these pressure packages in the NFL, coaches will often put X's on a chalkboard. They'll create generic looks and blitz paths to defeat the offense. So like something like Bengal, they would put just X's here and say, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to have 7-up. We want to have a guy to the back. We want to have this exotic look. And then what they'll do is they'll teach everyone the path. So instead of, a traditional football thing where I'm going to line up, I'm the backer, and I'm going to blitz this gap and things like that, what he'll do is teach everyone the concept so you can rotate players in and out. And then as you start to know your personnel, or even if you know your personnel and you want a different look, you switch those in and out. And what it does, it puts a lot of stress on the offense. They're studying who's where. And the next week, they don't even know what's coming. And he creates maximum flexibility for the defense. In the secondary, all of the DBs are aligned in off coverage, 7 to 9 yards off. And occasionally there will be a safety that lines up in the middle of the field. Remember, this is a 3rd and long, obvious passing situation call. So lining up this far off won't hurt the defense. If it's 3rd and 8 or about like that, really isn't going to do anything. Catch, tackle, fourth down. All right, so let's get into the fun part. The first part of this package is called Hawk. Hawk is a max blitz in which the defense is bringing one more than the offense can block with a twist. The A gap and B gap rushers will rush their gaps while reading the offensive line. If the line slides to me and I'm an A gap defender or B gap defender, I'm going to pop out and read the eyes of the quarterback, looking for crossing and underneath routes. The D end away from the running back over here is going to contain rush. The D end to the running back will rush kind of down the middle, slightly outside, but going to try to take this guy out. And so the free safety off the edge of the running back can rush, and he will peel and take the running back if he flares. If I'm one of the A or B gap rushers and the slide goes away from me, I keep going. The defensive backs will all line off and cover their receiver man-to-man with zone vision for a 2 count. That is the secret sauce to this call. These DBs are going to line up off, but they're going to be looking at the quarterback for 2 beats. The ball's got to come out fast, so if they do, they'll break. If not, then they will snap their eyes back to their man and cover. The corners will cover the outside guys, the number 1 receivers. The star, the nickel, will cover the number 2 receiver, and the safety, the strong safety down in here. Can't really see him. He's here. He's going to cover the 4th most dangerous receiver. So really that's 2, but I'm putting 4th for here. Usually the tight end's going to be, now if you're playing a team, we got Kelsey, then you kind of game plan how you want to do that. And by rule, if a defensive back is covering a receiver that blocks, they will add to the rush. That prevents the offense from being able to sneak people back in late. Like on this play, the tight end stays in the block, the person covering him will rush, so they can never rebalance the numbers. But for the DBs that are covering their receivers, if the receiver dives down inside right now and the quarterback looks at him, you can follow your man. However, if the receiver dives down inside and the quarterback's not looking, these DBs can now play like zone eyes. And what ends up happening is the guys that pop out will end up picking these guys up. And again, there's not a lot of time. So longer developing routes will not help. You can't run something like this across and then up the field, the quarterback will be on his back.
What makes the Hawk call so deadly is the 7th defender on the line of scrimmage to the running back side. Most offenses can handle a 6-man cover 0 look in protections and the run game, but the 7th defender really changes the complexity of the pass protection. In a 6-up look where everyone rushes, the offense can still half slide and put the back on the backer. No problem. They're still 1-on-1 in protection. In Hawk, with the 7th defender, the defense has a free runner. If you try the normal half slide protection, the running back will be responsible for blocking 2 defenders. Either the backer walked up in a B gap or the free safety coming off the edge. If the offense tries to full slide the protection, it's even worse now because that back now has to be matched up with a $20 million edge rusher and a safety to block. What some offenses will do to try to counter this look is to have the back cross protect, meaning they're going to slide to the running back side and have the running back block away from the slide and go across the quarterback's face. And while this seems like a fine strategy on paper, it sets the back up for failure because this is a difficult angle for the running back to make his block.
Yeah, the offense, as I mentioned, what they'll try and do is, if you can't block with 6, block with 7, the defense has to have a mechanic to bring an extra person so they can't balance out the numbers. Here's a clip of the Jets a few years back trying this and saying, hey, let's have the back block the least dangerous rusher, which is going to be right here. But again, this safety here that's covering the tight end, he's coming so fast, that angle's bad. This is what ends up happening. He gets a free runner on the back. He beats the back 1-on-1. And now Flacco's running for his life. And now he's lost about 20 yards. Not a winning business model.
With the defensive backs playing off, the intuitive answers would be throwing short routes in front of them, like quick hitches, slants, perimeter screens. But that's still an issue because an offense needs to gain at least 7 yards, and those defensive backs are ready to trigger. With zone vision, they can pass off other potential cover zero beaters like switch releases. And there are two underneath droppers helping on those crossers and underneath the routes. So those routes are hard to complete, and they're still short of sticks. There are also potential routes that give the defense problems, but they take longer to develop. Keep in mind the quarterback doesn't have time and will usually have a free runner in his face by now. The Bengal hawk clips are littered with open receivers, but the quarterbacks aren't looking there. The only real danger is if the quarterback's able to elude the rush and break the pocket. If the offense attempts to catch the defense off guard by calling a popular six-man rush, cover zero beater, run play, they'll also be in trouble because typical answers to a max blitz are jet sweeps, toss, and speed options. But against cover zero pressures, the offense only needs to reach the end on a jet sweep or toss or read the end in speed option. And they're usually able to get the ball to the perimeter quickly and be able to be off to the races. However, the seventh defender negates all of that. If you reach defensive end or jet sweep or toss or pitch off the end in speed option, the free safety to the running back is unblocked off the edge, and who better to blitz off the edge than Harrison Smith?
Flores was not shy about running this blitz over and over again. I covered this call extensively in an episode of a YouTube show I used to do called Tuesday Night Football, back when the Dolphins played Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in 2021. The Dolphins ran this call 34 times one game, and the Ravens didn't have any answers. They were relying on chuck and ducks up to receivers that could win one-on-one. They also tried the aforementioned hitches, screens. They all went short of the sticks. It didn't go well, and the runs were even worse. Instead of outsmarting himself, Flores and Boyer just kept calling the pressure, creating maximum chaos. So let's get into some other pieces of the package. Flores also had a version of this pressure with the free safety rushing off the opposite edge called Eagle. I don't really think they did it much, but it was there. They also had the ability to run a call, which they ran sparingly as well, Boa, which all Boa did was tell them to run the Hawk Blitz. But instead of the droppers, if they got the slide to them, everybody just went. So it was a true 7-man pressure. Ball's coming out fast, but there are no underneath droppers. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the truly remarkable part about this Bengal presentation is the Hawk Blitz is so effective. That's really the only pressure they ran. Most pressure packages have a multitude of pressures, different paths, completely different blitzes. One side's dropping, one side's going with all these different coverages. There's none of that. You have a successful fastball. Why do anything else? And Hawk was overwhelmingly the number one call blitz-wise to the tune of, I think, 98% of the time. Flores' second main call in the Bengals package is Bronco. Bronco is their code word for country cover 3 with 3 deep defenders and 4 underneath zone droppers. As you can see, the defense is presenting the Hawk alignment. Before the snap, the free safety will run to the middle of the field and play the deep middle. The strong safety and star will drop into the curl to flat, and the Mac and money will drop into the hook to curl, about 12 to 14 yards deep. And they're staring at the quarterback. That's all zone. They're not matching any routes. It's complete vision coverage, breaking on the throw, knowing the ball is going to come out fast because they're showing that Hawk alignment. This call is the perfect curveball. The quarterback's going to think the ball's coming out fast. He's catching, he's ready to throw, and you're dropping in those windows that are needed to complete the pass.
Yeah, and as a quarterback, you got to think about the mindset change. You're thinking about trying to throw away from man defenders, hit receivers on a run. You have to rush through your progressions and try to find an open guy. And all of a sudden, you have to change your mindset to going back into a normal progression and throwing into holes into zone instead. So it's a quick change of pace for the quarterback that some of them might not be equipped to handle.
And I cannot overstate this enough when I talk about this package. I've studied defense for almost 2 decades. I don't know if I've ever seen a concept where a team is calling a look 100 snaps a year, and there's 2 plays out of it. It's like Madden football. It's like engage 8 and then drop everybody. They had some other calls with the Bengal front, but the free safety's in the middle of the field. So it really kind of changes the threat to the offense. And also, if you're going to have a man curveball, it really doesn't make sense because you're showing this cover 0 presentation where you're going to bring everybody, and then to then bluff and still play man without the blitz. You're getting all the bad parts of the hawk call with none of the benefits. So the Vikings actually busted this out in their 3rd preseason game. Here's a snap of the hawk call. They didn't do any Bronco cover 3, but we did get a hawk call. You can see the DBs are lined up off. Down here at the bottom, the defensive back is showing press and will bail, but you can see the 7-up presentation right here. The offense is going to do the cross protect here. They're going to try to block everyone here and bring him across. They probably didn't think the Vikings were going to do this. They'd never seen it on film. But as we talked about, they got nobody here. They got nobody for the free safety, who I'm assuming when the games start to count will be Harrison Smith. So they end up full sliding. And even though they have a man for a man 6-on-6, the back tries to step across and block 59. He actually wins 1-on-1, but 20 beats him to the edge. You can see in this freeze frame, the back here has stepped up. 20 is speed racing around the edge. You can see 40, I think this is 43 here. He's outside, but he's occupying this tackle, so he can't get a 2-for-1. 20 is unblocked to the ball. It's a sack. Ball's out. Fumble. Vikings recover.
So as you can see, this is going to be a completely different mindset change for this Vikings defense. They're not going to sit back and allow offenses to dictate what they want to do. And having this boom or bust mentality might be a better process for the Vikings because their defensive roster isn't that talented. They do have some good players on that side of the ball, but overall depth, they're pretty thin and there's some trouble spots. But by having this boom or bust type of mentality and bring the fight to the offense, they might have a better chance than just sitting back and letting teams pick them apart. And Brian Flores has had a good track record of knowing when to be aggressive. And I think he's going to get the most out of this defense.